Ringba, they be the king high. Now, what you won't do? Wanna be ballers, big shot paper callers.
Welcome to the Paper Callers Show. My name is Adam Young, the founder of Ringba, and today I have some very special guests, clients and friends of mine, Sean McCormick and Zack Bloom. They're the co-founders of Covalent Media Group, and Covalent Media Group is a full-service marketing firm. They specialize in helping brands grow their customer base, and I'm very excited to have them on the show today. Thank you so much for joining me, guys.
Adam, absolute pleasure.
Thank you for having us.
I just want to give a side note to my partner here. The camera's up there when we're talking.
Good to know.
Yeah.
It took us, 5 minutes to get this thing up and running to begin with, so.
It's okay if you want to look at the screen, you can be weird about it, whatever. So the most exciting thing that's happened to you guys, I think in a while, correct me if I'm wrong, is the fact that your company was acquired around the beginning of the year, right?
That's correct. Well, you know, if my wife watches this, I have to say the most exciting thing to happen has been we had a fourth child back in May of last year. So that was probably the most exciting thing in the past year. But secondarily, the most exciting thing in business has been the acquisition of Covalent Media Group.
That's awesome. So first and foremost, congratulations, guys. And one of the biggest reasons I wanted to have you on the show is for our audience in pay-per-call and the affiliate marketing industry, it's kind of rare to see a company get acquired at your scale. And so I really want to talk to you about that. And so if you wouldn't mind, can you just walk us through what that process was like and what it felt like from beginning to end?
Yeah.
Sure.
Do you want to go?
Yeah, I give you a little story about how it came about, and then Sean could walk you through some of the pain points. But basically, the company Subdirect acquired us back in February. But going back about 2 years ago, we started working with them on the lead gen side. So we were generating leads for Subdirect for one of their digital properties. We met with them in the city around the holidays of 2016. And meeting went really well. I guess they liked some of our ideas. And Kelly, our CEO of the company, kind of about 5 or 6 months later, called Sean out of the blue. Just wanted to do, get a few more, get to know us a little more, find out a little more about us. Call went well, one thing led to another, and we were meeting in the city a few months after that. And that kind of sped things up this past fall for what led to the acquisition.
Yeah. Yeah, it was an exciting process. I mean, everyone has their different story of how things went down. Ours was, we started working with a company. They liked our service. They liked what we had to provide. And they said, we probably should own this company. When Kelly called me and asked if we had any interest in selling the company, I was a little hesitant. When Zack and I founded the company, our goal was to take our years of learnings and turn it into a large company and, have it be more of a lifestyle business. When we started this thing, we had no intentions of ever selling it. And we just passed our 3-year anniversary.
Yeah, right around now.
Not together, but as a company. So it's definitely exciting and humbling, and we're very grateful as well for the opportunity.
Yeah, it wasn't on the roadmap, but here we are, and so far so good. So we're pretty excited about it.
Yeah, that's super cool. And I remember meeting Kelly at one of the most recent Ringba parties, and she was awesome, and their team seemed awesome. And so I think you guys obviously found an amazing fit. And I want to highlight something there that I think is pretty normal at your stage. Someone calls and says, hey, we might be interested in acquiring your business. It wasn't planned, it wasn't designed, but clearly they saw that you guys were great partners and a really good fit with their business. And so I can see how they would pick up the phone and call. Also, it's right in your growth path. You're only a couple years in, you're obviously growing on a monthly or quarterly basis. And that's one of the best times to sell is on the upswing, not if it starts heading down, right? No down rounds.
It's tough as founders and partners too, because you believe so much in your secret sauce, and you're drinking your own Kool-Aid, and you don't know when you're going to hit, the peak of the upside. So you really need to have a gut check and the heart to heart with your business partner or colleagues or accountants or whatnot, because there's no way to predict what the apex of the hockey stick up into the right's going to be. we strongly believe that that's not where, we didn't sell at the top. We sold probably somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we're going to get to where we wanted to go faster, having Subdirect behind us, not only with a bunch of cash, but they've been around a long time. Kelly and Brian, the two individuals that really run the day-to-day, have tremendous knowledge about not only our industry, but several different industries want to go in. Paper call being a growth engine that we really want to get more immersed in over the next couple of years. It just made sense from a strategic standpoint as well.
Yeah, and I think to echo on that a little bit, overall it's going to give us many more opportunities to do things that we otherwise may not have been able to do right away, just because of operating, startup and kind of having to manage every in and out of startup mode. So while there's so many great things about that, and it's exciting and exhilarating as the ups and downs are, there's also something to be said about having a little more structure on the finance side and some cash in the bank account to be able to do more opportunities and grow faster.
Now, when you guys founded Covalent, did you bootstrap the company?
Yeah,
we did.
We did, yeah.
So
that's amazing. So right now that you have all the additional capital and resources, you guys are basically going to find out what you're actually capable of without all those restrictions.
Yeah, essentially. I mean, I think, Zach and I have done a decent job over the years building up the war chest. And, when we were talking about selling this thing, there's two things that really went into it. Is you have the, just the physical element, like the blood, sweat, and tears that went into building it. And then you have the emotional element, like, hey, we put our hard-earned dollars into this, and, is it worth more than what we're currently offered? And at the end of the day, we just said, you know what, this is a fantastic offer. It's a fantastic company. Let's move forward. And, where we stand today with what they offer, it's kind of, do you really, we put our money where our mouth is, so do you really believe in the Kool-Aid, right? That we've been selling everyone else is. Now there's no other excuses why the company's not growing other than we're not doing the job.
I like that. I like that a lot. So how long did the acquisition process from that initial phone call with Kelly actually take?
Yeah, so Kelly called me probably in August of 2018. We met in the city in October, had lunch, or maybe September, October. And then from there, we exchanged what we believed to be, they did some high-level due diligence on us, nothing formal, just financials, customer records, and things of that nature. And then we entered into an LOI phase probably sometime in November. And so, from November, December, January, closed late February. So from offer letter to closing, probably about 4.5 months.
Very cool. And I think that's pretty normal for an acquisition at your stage. I've seen a few of them. And that timeline for an affiliate is like 3 lifetimes, right? 6 months to do a single deal. How did that feel?
Stressful.
Yeah.
The good news is we had partners on the other end that we trusted. So a lot of that, kicking the tires and that sniff test wasn't as excruciating as we thought it would be on both sides. But it was stressful at times, because there's always a point in the deal where you think things might be going south or sour. And you really have to have a gut check on how important the deal is to you and how badly you want to get it done.
I think those 4.5 months at times felt like 4.5 years.
Yeah.
Sean and I were, I think, pretty much holed up in this conference room for what seemed like 6 weeks, right around the busy season too, because Q4 is always a pretty jam-packed day for lead gen, because there's always a lot of brands that are exhausting their marketing budgets. So, but yeah, just, a lot of phone calls, a lot of back and forth. As Sean said, a lot of gut checks, because you go through those emotional highs and lows of what you want and how you want it all to play out and get it to the point where everybody gets something. And as you said, Adam, too, in the affiliate space, that's a long turnaround time for a deal. So, a lot of long days, a lot of whiskey on the couch at night to blow off some steam afterwards, but it all came together in the end.
So what do you think the biggest lesson that you learned throughout this process is? And what do you think you should have done differently now that we can look back and have that 2020 vision?
I think one important thing from my standpoint during the whole process was that I'm very fortunate, and we bust each other's balls a lot and get on each other, but I'm really fortunate to have a business partner who I kind of, always on the same page with and trust 100%. Even if we disagree, we'll battle it out, but we'll always have the same front when it's time to make a decision. So having that person by one side during this process, I think makes all the difference in the world, because you really are in there together with someone that you're wanting to do, great things with and have that support system. And also, I think a lot of these times when you are in this situation and there are maybe one or two or three voices on a, executive level, I think there's something to be said about not always talking and listening a lot. So I think we try to, avoid letting ego get involved sometimes and, just have one person run the show at times and someone else jump in when needs to be, but not, trying to, I guess, overdo it in the courting stage.
Yeah, I think if I was giving a piece of advice to anyone that is looking to sell their business actually two pieces of advice to anyone who's looking to sell their business or might be in the process now. One, make sure you have a good accountant and bookkeeper. Early on when we were bootstrapping it, I did a lot of the bookkeeping and I probably didn't do the best of job at midnight, 1 a.m. in the morning. So getting a good, really good bookkeeper, CFO to keep those records for you is important. And then just, another thing, a piece of advice is, like Zach mentioned, make sure that you have mentors or people around you that could give you, unbiased advice. Individuals that don't have kind of a stake in the end result here, but, the only thing they're after is your best interest. So if you have those two things, I think you'll be fine.
I really appreciate that advice, and I'm willing to be humble with you there. A couple years ago, maybe 3, before we brought on our CFO for our parent company, we did a lot of the same thing you just described. And I have to admit, having a financial team behind you to do all those numbers, prepare monthly and weekly statements, and stay on top of every single penny is worth so much stress and so much money too. Like, your CFO and financial infrastructure should actually make you money. And so I just want to reiterate that advice. I think it's something that a lot of we'll call us scrappy entrepreneurs from the affiliate space, maybe don't want to spend our time doing, but there's an extreme amount of value in it. So thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate it.
Well, yeah, getting humble is important and telling the truth. And, that's a process that we were shoring up as we're going through the acquisition, and it's not the right time to do it. So, we learned a valuable lesson there, but at the end of the day, it worked out.
And besides the financial statements, because I've seen a lot of deals and I'm involved in a lot with Tech Coast Angels here in California, I would say that most entrepreneurs at that stage don't have perfect books and financials. But outside of the financials, how do you think you could have been better prepared for that random phone call of, hey, we want to buy your company?
Yeah, I think that just comes down to how you are as a person and how open and willing you are to listen to people. I think Zach mentioned it earlier, is that the most important ingredient to any of this is listening. Ask more questions than responding is important. But don't actually listen, but hear what people are saying. We have 2 ears and 1 mouth, and that's for a reason.
I love that. So let's talk about you guys for a minute, because I have a great relationship with my business partner. Shout out to Harrison. It's his birthday today, now that we're recording this.
Happy birthday, Harrison.
I'm super lucky to have this person in my life because, similar to you guys, I trust him implicitly. We've known each other for a decade. I can rely on this person. We don't fight, but we definitely discuss things in a way that's adversarial, so we can hash out rough spots, right? And try and make the best decisions. So take me through your relationship a little bit. How did you guys meet? And what was that moment where you decided to found Covalent Media?
Are you going to charge us a therapy bill for this one?
Yeah.
Yeah, worms you.
Yeah. Well, we met, believe it or not, in 8th grade. I don't think we were friendly that much at first. We were more acquaintances.
Yeah.
And, you know, people were talking about Sean. I didn't get involved in that, but no, but we became very close in high school. We had a really close high school class, but even within that, we were kind of in our, inner circle of friends. So we went to high school together. We ended up going to a wonderful school in Rhode Island called the University of Rhode Island.
It's really the Brown of Southern Rhode Island, but
it's a lot for a shirt, but that's how we.
That's how we. Yeah.
It's like half your graduating class right here.
That's good. There you go.
Good. Yeah, spawned some good people in the industry. So we went to URI together, though we didn't spend too much time together in college. We kind of ran in our own circles, but as soon as class was over, just on breaks, we were always hanging out. And then after that, Sean kind of was an entrepreneur right away and jumped right into the lead gen space, whereas I was a career bartender for quite a while. But Sean and I had always talked about working together, and once he had started his second company, the opportunity came up, and kind of I was like, you know what, but let's try it, let's give it a shot. So I worked for Sean for a while, kept in, learn the space, got to, hear him on the phone and learn a bunch of things and meet some people and make my own relationships. And then we started several companies after, Covalent being the second. And yeah, it's been a long time, long relationship, a lot of highs, a few lows, but we've always been in it together. And the common question we get to is if we're also married. We are, just not to each other. However, we also, we stopped correcting people at this point because what's the point?
Yeah. I would say in regards to our relationship and how we work together, we're both pretty sarcastic. And I think a lot of the times, some people might get frustrated with that, but it's kind of how we work together is we joke about it in a snarky, sarcastic way, but at least we understand where each other's coming from. And we always, no matter what happens, I don't think we've ever left work angry at each other. Very similar to don't go to bed angry.
Yeah.
Don't leave work angry at your business partner. And again, we've always had a tiebreaker on, no matter what side of the business is. Zach's dad, I consider a second father to me. So he's been, he consults and he's been a consultant for us. And then when it comes to tech, we have another friend who's went to URI that also is a tiebreaker. So if you have a business partner, you're 50-50, there's going to be times that you both want to go a separate direction on what you want to do. Always have a tiebreaker, someone that you guys trust, you value their opinion, and that person is the one that helps break the tie. Otherwise, it's just, you're going to end up angry at each other.
And for the record, my dad is a tiebreaker like Sean a lot more than me, so it's kind of impartial in a way. But as Sean said, yeah, it's definitely good to have a little inner circle of people that you can go to for counsel or just for
I see this a lot with co-founders, business partners, whatever you want to call it. It's either almost one of two camps. It's people who met on a Tuesday and were like, hell yeah, let's start a business. Or it's people who have known each other for a very long time, have learned how each other operate under pressure, which I think is hugely important, and have been through some life experience with each other. And I think the latter is the recipe for the most successful partnership. I don't think people should hop into business with people they don't know. I think they really need to get to know people and spend a lot of time together like you guys did, like Harrison and I did, before a financial transaction ever gets in the middle of it. Because if you don't know how each other operate under pressure, that could just end up in disaster. And I think that's probably why a lot of startups fail. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, you want to see how someone reacts them to pressure, go play blackjack with them at a table of 5, or go play craps with them. You'll figure out real quick what they're made of.
I like that. So what were the early days of Covalent Media like?
Well, in full disclosure, we started from my dining room until we were able to afford an office space.
Yeah.
We were fortunate to get this office space probably about 6 months after starting the company. But every day, Zach and our programmer, our CTO, JJ, would come to my house. We'd work at my dining room table and set up shop. My wife stopped trying to have dinner at the dining room table because our computers were there and all of our equipment was our office. But, believe it or not, Zach and I would take walks every day, probably about a half hour at a time. It was the summer months, and we discussed the business, and I'd say there was probably never a walk where something good didn't come of it. So, get out of the office with your business partner, do some stuff that you normally wouldn't do, and just talk about the business outside of your comfort zone.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think usually once or twice a year, Sean and I will try to get out of town for a night too, just to go somewhere and not necessarily talk about work to start, but just, talk about what's going on and visions, and all of a sudden, one thing leads to another, and you're just having a great time, and you're not in that office environment. And you think of what you think are 10 great ideas, and sooner or later, 2 or 3 of them start to come to fruition, and then just snowballs from there. So I think those trips are really important. And just
let's highlight on that for a minute, because underneath what you just said was an admission of sometimes we make mistakes and fail. And I'd really like to talk about that for a minute, because it's so important to business, especially in marketing. I like to say that marketing is perpetual failure until we fall into a pile of money. So tell me about some of those failures that you had in the early days of your business.
Yeah. Would you mind if I went first?
Sure.
So Zach and I acquired a call center in Fort Worth, Texas, back in early 2017. And if you want to talk about failures, we got the business for what we felt was a very, very fair and generous multiple on EBITDA or revenue, however you want to look at it. But, the one thing we didn't plan on and didn't do a good job on, and it comes back to the financial component, is leaving, plenty of cash to operate the business. We bought this business in Fort Worth, and, it's a completely different business model from a cash flow standpoint. You're paying your customer service reps weekly, and cash flow is coming in net 30, net 45, net 60. So I'd say, if I had to, point the finger at myself, we didn't plan, or I didn't plan well enough, post-acquisition cash flow. So that definitely hurt us when we were running the business and scaling Covalent as well. So I'd say that was definitely a failure there. We learned some very, very valuable cash management lessons from that. That's probably one of the biggest failures we've had. Besides for that, I'll let Zach talk about this one a little bit. Technology, when we started the company, even though we have a CTO, today we did try to outsource the tech build to a firm in Bangladesh. And I'd say that was probably a big mistake on our part as well. And I'll let Zach talk about maybe that or any other failures.
Yeah.
We have a list of failures.
Yeah, we could go for hours on this. But no, the outsourcing of a lead gen platform could have gone really well, but it didn't. It was a kind of unmitigated disaster when we needed ad serving to work one way and offers to literally generate leads for clients, and we couldn't do it just because the architecture wasn't there. So almost had to completely shut down our highest grossing revenue channel, which is our lead gen, portal, for probably 2 or 3 months. Yeah. Which is not an easy thing to do, especially when you're a smaller startup and kind of getting some momentum in the market space. Yeah. So, but we did it. We came out on the other side a little more knowledgeable and with a much better product. So it did work out in the end. Yeah. But that was a lot of sleepless nights there. And then also, we've built properties and we drive traffic to try to monetize our users on the lead gen side. We've made mistakes when it comes down to traffic. Sometimes traffic's really strong and, you're getting good users, and other times it doesn't work out. So you're trying to, do a good media strategy for one of your bigger clients, and you think it's going to work out great. It's all, awesome on paper, but then as soon as the results start coming in, it's a mess, and then you lose the business, and you have to go back to the drawing board. So
Would you say that happened a couple times?
Yeah, once or twice. Yeah, the beauty of lead gen, it's performance-based, but not a lot of a retainer business. So when you lose a few big ones, and they always seem to happen at the same time, it's not like you can just plug one or two right back in there. It takes some time to regrow that.
I'll tell you what, though, I mean, to Zach's credit and why he's such a great business partner is he builds really strong relationships. So there was no relationship or account that we lost that we couldn't get back. It always came back to us feeling confident enough that we're going to deliver better results.
And I think that's really important. In the affiliate marketing space where there's a lot of cowboys, there's something to be said for creating really strong relationships with people. That can be the difference between success and failure. And I really appreciate what you guys said about technology. I've been through a lot of those lessons myself as a technologist, right? And I literally felt what happened to you in the pit of my stomach. And so I think people don't realize how complicated it actually is to build a sustainable technology platform, regardless of what it's for. And it requires a lot of effort. And if you don't get it right, it can be devastating to your business. So I really respect that you went through that process, but also that you made it through safely on the other side, because I know a lot of companies don't.
Learning experience.
Yeah, we were always confident, but it's like getting hit by a torpedo, but somehow you managed to keep the ship afloat. And I don't know how it happened, but it worked. So.
Very cool. So let's talk about your call business a little bit. This is the Paper Caller Show after all. What are you guys doing in calls? Has anything changed since your acquisition? And what do you think the future of your business in relations to calls is going to look like?
Sure.
All good questions.
So
I'll take the future. You can take the
Okay. Yeah. So I think, one thing that our pay-per call side helped during this acquisition process was, there's a lot of eyeballs on our revenue and our profit numbers from, now the acquiring company, always giving reports and updates. And the fourth quarter of last year, we really started to hit our stride in the pay-per call space. So that really helped not really artificially inflate the numbers, but it was a good time to get hot. So we kind of ended the year on a high, and a large part of that was for our pay-per-call side. Pay-per-call in the past had always been one channel we dabbled in, but it wasn't really it was kind of like the third channel of the lead gen space. And it's kind of become, a 1 or 1A now in the last 6 months. Not to give you guys a plug, it's your show, but Ringba has definitely helped us run that division a lot more strongly, giving us a lot of tools to be able to grow it, which is always, a hurdle when you're a small company. And yeah, it's become a real focus of our day-to-day. And with the acquisition, one exciting thing for us is with some added cash flow and with some, deeper pockets, there's some more opportunities that we can now jump into, especially on that side where the media is more expensive, and then start to continue to grow that business.
Yeah, in regards to the future, there's a lot of stuff going on, some things that we're ready to do in the next 3 to 6 months, and then probably a year plus out. The stuff in the next 3 to 6 months, obviously we are a lead generation company. We own a lot of registration pages, forms, sign-up pages. So what we do is we get users to fill out their contact information. And so one thing we're going to be experimenting with in the next 3 months is a click-to-call on desktop. We're excited about that and having Ringba be our back end for tracking monetization. Besides for that, when it comes to pay-per-call, I think, individuals, and I'm sure many are working on it now, but the individuals that really understand Alexa and the Google Home and how to get rankings and listings on voice command are going to be those that are going to be the most successful probably in the next 2 or 3 years. It's things that we're going to actively work on, but I really believe that that's the future of pay-per-call is essentially, screenless search. Very
cool. Well, thank you guys so much for your time. I appreciate having you both on our show.
Pleasure, man. We had we should do it again next week.
Thanks for having us, Adam.
And if any of our viewers want to do business with Covalent Media Group, how do they get a hold of you guys?
Just write us a check. You can go to our homepage. I think our number's on there. But if not, you could just email either Zack, Z-A-C-K, or Sean, S-E-A-N, at covalentmg.com.
Cool. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Adam.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Adam.
it.
Ringba, they do they thing high. Yeah, calling about the Benjamins,
Thanks for watching the
baby.
Paper Collar Show. Let us know what you think by joining the conversation and commenting below. If you like this video, hit the like button. If you're new here, be sure to subscribe. And if you're on mobile, tap the bell. Whether you're new to Paper Call or an industry veteran, we invite you to join the free community at papercallers.com. This episode of Paper Callers is brought to you by Ringba Call Tracking and Analytics. See how Ringba is inventing the future of calls at ringba.com. See you next week.